Good evening, traders. It's Mark from the day trading room. It's 10 to 11 on a Thursday evening, London time. It's Thursday, the 19th of August. I want to run through what went on today in the Dow. It was a pretty weak day, down 144, range of 177 on the futures, and closing down 118. So no big flush into the close as such, but a good trend down day nevertheless. So what did we get up to today? Well, the overnight range, you can see the high was marked here in yellow at 10.425, low was 10.323, and the purple lines are levels of interest. Now we had some data at 1:30, and actually the market was at its overnight high just as the data was released, and then it basically did its whole range and pushed all the way through. In fact, if I give you an overnight view here, you can see here it was at its overnight high, and then the data came out and pushed us to the low. Now that's a setup that if anyone's been watching the videos and reading the site, everyone knows that I like to take the first pull back and then wait for the push back in the direction. So we got that, jumped on, quick 15 points, that was it, jumped straight off. Not going to hang around on that, especially pre-market. Very rarely do pre-market trades, but if the data's repriced, and in this case we had a 60-70 point move, which I consider that a reprice, then I will take a trade in the direction of the move. So that was that, and then that caused us basically to open up about level really on the YM, but we were down slightly on the Dow cash, and that was because of the occasional anomaly you get of the 15 minutes that the YM futures are open and the cash isn't. You can get a move which causes the gap to be slightly different. So that's what happened today. Anyway, nevertheless, we opened up about flat, so there's no gap to trade as such. But there was an inherent weakness after that data at 1:30. You had to consider that the market had been repriced. If I go back to the overnight again, the market had been repriced, and it had started to push back up around to the opening hour, 2:30 London time. But interestingly, if you notice here, this 10,360 level was the level it pulled back to during the reprice. So that became a pretty significant level, and it hovered above there for a while before rolling over. So let's go back to um, the regular chart here. So this was a lot of chop, and actually this was the key. I'm not sure why that was the key there. 10,370. It just couldn't break that. I tried several times, and it just couldn't break through that. So when it couldn't break through, and it started to roll back over, and really this candle here, to be honest, was the candle to look for. I mean, the ticks were high, but they still weren't as high as the lowest ticks. We had well over minus 500 ticks on the downside, and they were struggling to get above the 500 on the upside. So this was the candle here really that gave us the indication it was going to roll over, and we rolled over, took out the low. This was a nice trade because it picked up in volume. They'd attempted to push through the high, so you've got to look at it in the context of the whole trade. They'd attempted to push it through the high several times. They failed. That level had been a lot of volume done there, so all the buyers who were involved in that were now going to be bailing out as we started to push down here. But of course, we had the data at 3 o'clock. We had the what do we have today? We had 3 o'clock. We had the leading indicators and the Philly Fed, and the Philly Fed came in much worse than expected. So we took this short here on the breakdown through here, held through this, and came out at yesterday's low, so around here. So that was a nice scalp trade. But when we weren't going to get anything too big until the data came out. So waited for the data. Data came out, bang, straight down. Market went straight through yesterday's low, and more importantly, around here is the 10,300 cash level. Now, as you know, that's been the range for the past. That's been a good range and a good support level. 10,300 is 10,350. We did break through it yesterday and the day before and formed this sort of double top situation, but the 10,300 has been the bottom area of that range on the cash, so it's a very key level. A lot of people are looking for it, and levels that break after highs have broken. So if you get the pattern of taking out highs then coming back into the range and taking out lows, they're much more powerful. So as soon as I saw that 10,300 break, I was looking for my short. we got this slight pullback. It was so weak. I prefer to wait for a tick pullback to zero. But when you're literally jumping on the move, you can't wait. So and 10300 was under jeopardy, so took the short there and rode that down very nicely. And for the exit of this one, I didn't really have a target as such because the 10300 had broken. This could run on for a long period of time. So my strategy when in this situation, if I haven't got a target, I'm just looking to come out into the panic. It's just to wait for those ticks to penetrate the 1000 level, the 1000 on the upside or the minus 1000 on the downside if you're short. So you just wait for that. You don't look at the price. You just wait for that panic in ticks. And we got it here. Excuse me, on this bar here. So that was my exit. Nice little trade. Came wait for the minus 1000 ticks right on. Which bar was it? This bar here, this bar right here, 1000 ticks right at the bottom of this bar out. It went a lot lower, but we got our 1000 ticks, so we got a nice chunk of that move. Now the next move, I've been talking about this sort of setup again for a while in the last few videos, and it continues to work. So I will continue to use it while it works, and I'll be looking out for it. You've got the down move, you get the counter trend move, it pulls back to the 20 period as I showed you yesterday in the video. This is something I'll put the 20 period on during a trend type day. I won't normally put it on, but when you're looking for a pullback entry, it's a good gauge. And if you combine it with this powerful little tool, little trend line, I mean, you can't be exactly accurate with it, but you can try and get as best you can, and I think that's about right. You wait for this little uh, pull back, wait for it to break and take the short. Now actually this one got me in half size. Now I'll tell you why I only took half size on this one. These ticks, this high reading of the ticks concern me slightly, and the fact that we had pushed back far more than the 50% that I like to see of the move. The 50% was here, and now I expected that then to roll over at that point, but we got this little extra push which just popped up and came back. So that I was wary there were some buyers perceiving some value there. So I only took this with a half size on the usual on the break, and then this drifted down. It was quite a slow trade, a little bit less pace than I was expecting. And when we saw this bottom form here, without a tick low, and then we pushed back up. In fact, when we pushed back up, we broke this little trend line here, and I came out. So that was a nice little trade. Quite slow, but worked out great nevertheless. So what else did we do today? Well, we got into this situation of a triangle. If I draw the line here, we had this sort of, actually it wasn't really a triangle, it was more of I suppose a wedge is what they call them if you read in the technical analysis books. I don't really read these books, I just look at the patterns and call them what I want myself. So yeah, I guess this is a wedge type pattern. There was a lot of support here. The market had bounced off several times, and it looked like it was holding. But of course, the price was making this sort of shape pattern. In fact, you could probably that's probably a better drawing there. So the price was making lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, being squashed, and then eventually we broke through. But to be perfectly honest with you, I didn't take any of this because it was the volume was, even though the volume had picked up a bit, the range was relatively slow. So I was waiting for more of a bottoming action. Um, Now I was looking for a flush to come in around the 5 o'clock level, as I've mentioned before in some of my posts on the day trading room forum. The 5 o'clock flush is something I look for, either if I'm short or if I'm with the trend to exit, or to look for an entry and for a counter to get on the counter trend rally. In this case, we got this flush here. I had a resting order in actually at 10,180 for the majority of my position. I was expecting a flush, a much bigger flush, and to coincide with the 10,200 on the Dow. We didn't get it, and we got this flush here. We got a low tick reading. Then we got a good volume bar here on this bar, as you can see, one of the biggest volume bars of the day. Sorry, of the lunchtime period, coinciding with the low ticks. And then when this third bar couldn't push lower, I took the long at 10,201. But I've traded it poorly actually. I tried to be too clever, and I sat on the bid at 10,201, and unfortunately I only got a fill on a very small number of contracts, so I didn't get anything great out of it. I stuck with it because it was a small position. I was trying to get more on. I was trying to get the majority on of 10-180. Misread it. It happens. Didn't get a fill. Took off without me. Wasn't prepared to chase it. I was still wasn't actually convinced all through this that the buyers would step in. Anyway, they did step in. We popped back up. We got to this level here, and I took it out at the 10 to 28 level or something like that. So when it just paused around here, so yeah, it was a nice little trade. As I say, small size, so nothing too impressive, but nice to get a bit of lunch money nevertheless. And then after that, we just really this was a great little double bottom, which I didn't take. I wasn't sure if they were going to push this to new lows. It wasn't quite the sort of flush that I like, so I missed out on this. But I know a few guys got this. They're waiting for this sort of move. They got it, and they were rewarded quite quickly on that one. So we drifted around, and we got this spike up to the VWAP. This here coincided with the 10 300 level, so that was a nice little short. Take the short there on the second pop through with the ticks not reaching the highs. The divergence is the word I'm looking for there. Tick divergence, new high, pop through, volume pretty low, 10 300 on the cash. Take a quick scalp short and bring it off when it pulls back to this VWAP and this moving average. That was it then. I just thought, well, we'll see if we get any more action into the close. But it was getting late, so I called it a day. So all in all, a good day. Most of the stuff was done in the beginning of the day. I did hang around for the lunchtime, but as I say, I didn't get on it with any significant size, and then just one trade later in the day. So what we're going to look for tomorrow, obviously these will be redrawn these levels, but in terms of levels today that are going to be of interest tomorrow, let's draw some in so we can see. I'll just turn the alert off that, and I'll make this into a white thicker line as my preferred, and I'll do a couple of parallels so we can use that as a template. Right, so let's have a look. First one that stands out to me is this here, big one. In fact, that's such a good one, I'm going to thicken that up another notch. You can see here, bounced here, struggled here, bounce, 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 resistance, 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 support. Big, 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 big level there. So we're going to keep that on. That's a big one. What else have we got? We've got this here. You can see resistance, resistance, resistance almost. Bit of support here, bit of resistance there. So we'll have that line there. Up here as well, we'll put one. We've got a couple of points there, a bit thinner. And in fact, let's have another one. Around here is a good one, and of course yesterday's low, which will be printed on automatically on my chart. So this range is going to be interesting tomorrow. Be interesting to see how we trade overnight, if we can break the low. But we did get a double top forming there. If I just bring in the 60 minutes so we can see what's going on, and I'll change that actually to a 10 so we can zoom in a bit on the action. So that's the 10 of the cash. You can see we're in an interesting position here now. We had this double top forming here. Now we've got this little mini double bottom on the daily. So there's a bit confused. The market seems to want to be trading around this 10 300 level, and until we get a decisive break one way or another, it's not going to be clear as to how the market goes. So this is a great day trading environment. We've got our ranges, we've got our levels. We've got no data tomorrow, so it's just going to be a normal trading day. I will mark this day as a trend day, so tomorrow we'll see if we get the standard sort of oscillations and look to fade extremes. Will be my initial plan. I may change that depending on what happens overnight and what happens tomorrow during the trade, but that'll be my initial plan. We've got our levels, so we'll see exactly what happens tomorrow. Okay guys, well, good trading. I hope you had a great day, and I hope you have a good day tomorrow. And don't forget, it's Friday, so if you've had a profitable week, don't push things too much. Just keep your size small, manage your risk, and end the week on a good note. And if that means clocking off early, I know that's what I'm going to do. So maybe that's what you might do tomorrow.